Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to a brand new week of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and if you're looking into this show for the first time, thank you. Don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell, and then after the show, leave a comment. Let us see what you think. Tonight we have Bob Spearing from MUFON coming in to talk about some of the best reports of 2025. We'll get into some other mumbo jumbo as well when it comes to the UFO world. And the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you. Now, let's get started on that, shall we? We have Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing the gold medal tonight. Race fan with a silver. Paramarv taking home a bronze medal. Kitty Caddywhack, how are you? Michael Morris, the attorney at large. How you doing, buddy? Nice to have you here. Thunderhead, happy to see you here. Robert Lamoth and Roswell, how you doing, guys? Mel WD40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you can't talk about MUFON unless you're nice and lubed. So thank you, Mel, for the lube job. We appreciate it. Scrolling on down, we have Little Cam on YouTube, bench pressing 680 pounds tonight, 85 times to warm up for this show. Good job, Little Cam. Good job on the bench. All right, Necessary Dialogue, how are you as we roll on down on our roll call? Mama Catherine, there she is. Mwah. I love you, my dear. I hope you have a great night tonight listening in. I love you. I hope you had a great day as well. Luscious Jules, nice to see you as we continue on with our roll call. Good morning, Skip to my Lou. Skip to my Lou will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to your left of your studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. T-Bone, my man, nice to have you here. GMC, G-Mac, that's Glenn John McEnroe. There, got it figured out. Glenn John McEnroe is here, the pride of Wimbledon. Nice to have you here. And don't mess me up with the name changes, people. Messes me right up. A good laugh, Glenn. Millennium, my man, how are you? Nice to see you. As we scroll on down, Thomas Rock, Operation Shutdown. Good to have you both here. Signs of Life, nice to see you. As we scroll on down on roll call, Pam Harris is here. Pam Harris will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Scrolling on down, who's next? Well, it's Mr. Cowley, it's Alien Critter, and it's Stephen Finnegan. How you guys doing? How you doing? Algaray over on Twitch. He was on the bench press as well. Not to be outdone by Little Cam. He did 650. No, what did Cam do? 680? 685. So Algaray did 686 pounds on the bench press. My God, why am I so tongue-tied on that one? It's just astonishing the weight these guys are pushing. Yep, 85 times, 686 pounds. Undead Jed, how are you? Nice to have you here. Scrolling on down, we got Digger Dog. How are you, buddy? Nice to see you. I'm Hardcore on YouTube or on X. Yes, MUFON in the house tonight. We love our MUFON around here. We do. Scrolling on down, Walter Kochabinski, how are you? Nice to see you. And Jerence Carter. Focus, welcome to SOR Chat. How are you? T-Bone, my man, thank you for kicking off the Super Chat. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to take a look at some great stories of 2025 in the UFO world. From MUFON's board of directors, Bob Spearing is here tonight, a good friend of this show. We're going to have some fun. We are on our YouTube roll call right now, so just bear with us as we say hello to Gary J. How are you, my friend? Gary Rusin? And who else is next? AJ, my man, how are you? Good to have you here. East Coast Turnaround on X, Kitty Caddywhack. Thank you for that lovely super chat. Greatly appreciate your love and support of SOR, so thank you. And we got 15 seconds. Can we get through roll call? Stu effing Gerson, there he is. About time. Erica Stover, nice to see you. Flubber Lane, good to have you here. Everybody, do me a favor. It's that time to throw your horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears to what's really happening in the news. We're together, friends. Oh. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have an amazing show for you tonight. From MUFON's board of directors, Bob Spearing is here. Good friend of this show. We're going to get into a lot of really cool stories that we are going to talk about tonight on the show as 2025. It's a pretty good year in the UFO world. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick things off with another spooky story. If you want more UFO talk, well, the Wizard will be in. Yeah, Josh Rutledge from MUFON in Arizona. He'll be here for the UFO report a little bit later on. Let's get right to Bob, shall we? Bob Spearing is a longtime investigator, researcher, and board member of the Mutual UFO Network, better known as MUFON, where he serves as the organization's board of directors. With decades of hands-on experience in field investigations, Bob has directly involved in the documentation and analysis of UFO sightings, close encounters, and anomalous aerial phenomena reported across North America. Known for his methodical, evidence-based approach, Bob has worked closely with MUFON state directors, field investigators, and research teams to ensure credible data collection and responsible case management, helping maintain MUFON's reputation as one of the world's leading civilian UFO research organizations. And I'm going to bring Bob on right now because I got to say a big thanks to Bob Spearing, because recently you interviewed me for MUFON's YouTube channel about UFOs and some of the things that have been going on there. I want to say a big thank you for that. And Bob Spearing, it is always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Dave. Your beard's getting long.
Right? Where did 2025 go, my man? Like, you just blink and it's over.
And there was a lot of stuff went on this year too in the UFO world.
When you look back at 2025, it's been a very, very busy year. We're going to get into a lot of those stories and how this has affected MUFON and civilian reporting, everything that goes along with it. But first, for our audience who may not know who you are, Bob, okay, because we always have new people listening in, and we thank them for that. How did you get involved with UFOs and MUFON?
Oh, I started when I was a child. I always remember I was 6 years old when the November 9th, 1965 Northeastern blackout occurred. And I lived right across from the Manhattan skyline in Jersey City, and all of the New York skyline was a silhouette. Next morning, my father's brother, my Uncle John, came running over all excitedly saying that they think UFOs caused the great Northeastern blackout at the Clay Power Station up at Niagara Falls. As it turns out, there were several UFO reports that night near power stations in Canada. So I got hooked. My uncle started buying me some UFO comic books. In the 70s, I got into Saga UFO magazines. I got Chariots of the Gods when I was in 5th grade when it came out. And then in the 80s, I had my first of 3 UFO sightings. I was camping in a remote area of northwestern New Jersey, Round Valley Reservoir. It was a rainy night. I was on the beach sitting on an overturned canoe drinking some beers with a friend, and we saw this orange pinkish star coming across the water, and then it started doing the most amazing things, these outrageous maneuvers. I wouldn't know when this was 1985. I wouldn't know until 2013 that other people saw stuff like this when a fellow by the name of Terry Ray wrote a book on the orange orb phenomenon. I also had 2 other experiences. One where I was in a train going across the New Jersey Meadowlands, beautiful cloudless afternoon, heading towards Newark, New Jersey. I look out the window of the train, and there was this silver sphere, roughly the size of a silver dollar, pacing the train at 60 miles an hour, maybe 1,000 feet out, 1,000 feet up. And when it hit the Newark skyline, it shot ahead and over the buildings. And the last and weirdest thing that happened to me was in 2018. I was driving back from Quebec City. I love Quebec City. I love Canada. And I was approaching Lake Placid. And I was the only one on the road mid-afternoon. It was snowing, and there was a break in the trees, and there was a sheer cliff to my right. And when I looked to the cliff, there was this massive machine, roughly the size of 2 tractor trailers, tank-like, with triangle wheels, and it was climbing up the side of the cliff. And I did a major U-turn to come back to try to find it, and it was gone by the time I got back. So it wasn't technically a UFO, but it was the weirdest machine I ever saw doing really strange things. Anyway, I went to see Terry Ray speak in Pittsburgh at a MUFON convention. I met him, and he convinced me to join MUFON, become a field investigator. I had a bit of a forensic background working on the railroad, investigating railroad accidents. I had a film background, film production, film editing, film analyzing, and I became a field investigator. And because of my background in management and some of my skill sets, I'm now Director of International Development for MUFON.
How did you decide to get into MUFON?
I didn't know anything about MUFON until I decided to report my UFO sighting in the 1985 sighting. I reported it after I met Terry Ray, because he's the one that told me about MUFON. And so I realized that you could actually become a field investigator and actually investigate UFOs. There's several major UFO organizations that take UFO reports. Some are private corporations, some are United States government oriented, and some are free, open, and grassroots like MUFON. But MUFON's the only investigative agency per se. Other people try to investigate, but we have 4,000 members, and 700 of them are actual field investigators. And that's how I got into it. When I found the website to report a UFO, it was MUFON that I found, and that's how I got into it.
Now, I know that on this show, just to be fair, I've been critical of MUFON in the past, but I got to tell everybody right now on the record, I still believe MUFON is the #1 place for people to report UFO sightings. And I think they do it fairly. I've met so many investigators and interviewed many investigators on this show over the 10 plus years, almost 11 years. Well, I guess we're at year 11 now that I've been doing this show. And I can tell you that you guys really do a good job at picking your investigators and state directors. You really do. There really hasn't been anybody who I've interviewed over the years that I would say, well, why does MUFON have them? I think it's good people from top to bottom. I really do, Bob.
Yeah, and a lot of the people that decide to become field investigators and take the test, they usually do have forensic backgrounds. We have retired police detectives, retired FBI, a couple of intelligence people retired. We have photo analysts. We have our own laboratory for analyzing specimens. We have biologists, geologists. And the most amazing thing is that volunteers, no one gets paid. We do this for the love of the hunt. We're looking for answers, and we're dedicated.
That dedication that you all have as volunteers to the mission, why is it so important to not only yourself, but everybody involved?
I think everybody at MUFON, they want answers. They're not necessarily looking to get on TV shows. They're not necessarily looking to get a paycheck for doing research.
Oh, Bob is frozen on us. We will just wait for him to get back organized there. But yeah, one thing I have been, over the years, I have called out MUFON on a number of subjects, but I'll tell you, the people who are involved with MUFON, I'm a big fan of. Okay, they have really good people who have a great heart in trying to move this subject forward. And I really do believe people like Bob Spearing and many others who are involved, and you guys all know the UFO wizard, Josh Rutledge. He's part of MUFON in Arizona. They really have some brilliant, educated people. It's not just a tinfoil hat conspiracy group that is looking to report on your UFO subject and, hook you up to all sorts of weird gizmos in order to try and get the truth out of you, like you saw in Fire in the Sky with Travis Walton. That's not really how it plays out. It really just plays out as being a real candid group. And trust me, there are some other good groups out there. New Fork is one, APRO is another, and there are, ones out there that I would recommend for anybody to file their reports to. But where it gets a little bit cloudy is when you start getting into looking behind the organizations. Okay, there's one group out there called Enigma Labs where many people allege that it might have government ties, and all the reports end up going to the government. Do you really want your personal sighting going to the U.S. government or any government around the world? I don't think I would. It's really up to you guys on how you want to report it. But MUFON takes their stories very, very seriously. They take it very, very extensively. They're not going to downgrade you. They're not going to berate you, but they are going to do their research to make sure you saw what you said you saw. And whether or not you have photographic evidence or whether you have any sort of video evidence either. They will take a verbal report. And why shouldn't they? Most people don't even know what they're looking at. Most people, when they see something they can't explain, don't even think about putting their camera up on the air. They really don't. So I find it very interesting that, people are always wondering, well, where do I put my report? The one thing about MUFON, you could go put your report in a Facebook group, or you could go give your sighting on Instagram or whatever social media platform you choose. But the one thing that I like about MUFON is they're going to be able to tell you whether or not there's a cluster of sightings in your area. And maybe you're seeing what other people are seeing as well. And wouldn't you like to know that you're not the only one? You're not the only neighbor in your area that has had some sort of encounter, right? It doesn't work that way. I mean, you should be able to get some information. And that's where kind of MUFON comes into play. Because if you go on Facebook, you don't know if somebody's BSing you or not. You don't know. Right? So why not go to the pros and see what they have to say. We're just waiting for Bob to get back to us here. He'll be back in here momentarily. And I'll tell you, it's pretty cool. Like Bob is considered a good friend of this show. And when you have people, whether it's Bob Spearing or our good friend Len from Opus or whoever, it really is something that we can really trust that the information is going to be good. Bob, how you doing, buddy?
This only happens to me with StreamYard. Never happens to me with Zoom. All right. So I think it's fixed.
That's okay. So we were talking about, I was just kind of mentioning while your computer kind of went down there for a second, well, about, the importance of reporting and how MUFON is a good place to report, these type of cases. So, I mean, just your thoughts overall when you get into reporting. Do you remember your first report, the first one you read?
I can tell you one of the first ones I read.
Sure.
Was there's a fellow in New Jersey. It was like maybe my third or fourth case, and he claimed that he saw dozens and dozens of objects flying across the sky, and it was a pretty mundane report. But as I got talking to him, he started telling me that in the 1960s, his mother dated a general at Picatinny Arsenal. And when the fellow would be over the house getting drunk with his mother, he'd start to talk to them about what was in the basement at Picatinny Arsenal. And the drunker he got, he'd start to cry. And he basically told this kid that in the basement of Picatinny Arsenal are numerous UFO craft. And what's really intriguing about that is that over the years, there have been a number of very highly suspicious introduction to MUFON investigating was that there's something in the basement at Picatinny Arsenal.
Oh, weird. Very weird. Bob, when we got about 6 minutes to go here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour, Bob Spearing, Director of International Development for MUFON, is our guest tonight. What makes a good report?
Numerous things good video, good photographs that can be verified with the metadata. We have a 6-person photo analysis team, and Mark D'Antonio is our chief photo analyst. Every once in a while, we'll get good physical evidence. Most recently, in 2023, a fellow basically smuggled a piece of what he claimed was craft wreckage out of Moscow. And
all right, we are having a little bit of technical issues with Bob Spearing tonight. We're going to try and clear those up here very soon. But when you fill out a report, as we wait for Bob to kind of get back here for a second, when you fill out a report, what you want to make sure you do is try and capture everything that you can remember, even if you have a friend with you. Because if you're not doing that, basically you need to give as much detail as possible. You want to know what time of day it was, who you were with, where were you driving, where did you see it? Was it at home while you're standing on your balcony having a beer? You want to make sure that you get all of that type of information in there. And when you get that information and report it, it really is helpful to try and detail as much as possible. The more you can detail about your environment and what you actually saw, that's what you want to go by. I remember when I was standing on, both before I even started Spaced Out Radio, when I saw my black triangle, not mine personally, but when I had my triangle sighting with a couple of friends on my patio, this is going back to, I think, 2013, 2014. We had seen a UFO earlier, about 20 minutes earlier. And then when the black triangle was over top of our house, it was even better. But I can recall a lot of that night of what's happened. I recall my my ex-buddy's wife going absolutely haywire, throwing Hail Marys at the sky because she was Catholic and getting freaked out by everything that was happening. The fact that there was no sound, the fact that it seemed to open up a door in the sky and this craft flew through and disappeared. I mean, that stuff just doesn't happen normally. It doesn't, but you have to be able to push through it, right? You have to be able to give enough information in order to try and build a report that is valuable to the situation, because I would have never known, okay, that in the lower mainland of British Columbia, where I was born and raised, that's just east of Vancouver, okay, that it was a hotbed for black triangle sightings. Yeah, I would have never known. And there are all of these hot spots. And this is why if you report it to a group, you might be able to get more information on whether or not that is something that is seen frequently. Or more importantly, maybe other people who saw exactly what you have seen are reporting it as well. So that way, you have a database of people who you could talk to about it, about what they saw. Because a lot of people, when they have a UFO encounter, what happens is they actually start researching this subject. It's what happened to me. It's what's happened to many others. And when they start researching, that's when they start seeing, well, geez, more and more people in my area claim to see these things. So that's what makes it fun, is when you can culminate the information, bring it all together, and actually maybe build something that's happening a lot more often than what you think. Next thing you know, you're buying equipment like night vision goggles. You're becoming a sky watcher, chasing them UFOs. Then all of a sudden, you start putting stickers on your vehicle of aliens, of UFOs abducting people. Yeah, it happens. Then you start wearing the t-shirts. That's where you go to our Spaced Out Radio store and do that. Why not? I'm kidding. Not really, but I am. Before we go to break, I want to let everybody know that I just did an interview on MUFON's YouTube channel. You go to YouTube, type in MUFON. I did a recent interview with Bob on that beautiful, beautiful YouTube channel that they have. Over 97,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel. And we did about a 45, 50-minute video. And I would recommend everybody go watch it. Not just because it's me. Bob is doing some great interviews on the YouTube channel for MUFON recently. And why not? It's worth it. Bob gives good interviews. So you got to be able to do that. You got to be able to do that. Want to let everybody know that I will be taking a Christmas break this year and a New Year's break. So you will likely hear archive shows on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then in Canada, we call the 26th Boxing Day. I will be taking those nights off, and then again on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So the 24th, 25th, 26th will be repeat shows, and then, of course, ending the year and starting the new year with repeats as well. Why? Well, old Davey every now and again needs a break. And I'm actually going to decide to spend some evenings with my family. I know. You're like, Dave, this is your job. This is what you do. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Well, we're going to make sure that we can get it back. I got to pay back sometimes. And it's usually around the holidays when I got to pay it back. We are still attempting to get the technological problems fixed with Bob Spearing, our guest from MUFON tonight. He is Director of International Relations for MUFON. Board of Directors. He is a good guy. He's got great hair. Really, what more do you need when it comes down to a great interview here on Spaced Out Radio? Knowledge and great hair. Bob Spearing next on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're just waiting for Bob here. Oob to Joe's Bane, you've got aliens. Bigfoot Michigan Rob, how are you? Trace B, how you doing? Julie Rios, nice to see you. Cosmic Joe, thanks for coming on in. Jeff Steve Garvey is here. He'll hit a home run for you. Hey, Bob.
Yeah, I'm using my phone. I think this will work.
Oh, you look beautiful. You look
Thank
like
you.
you're running a marathon. Look at that beautiful hair. Look at that gorgeous hair. Oh, my God. See, that's why you are in the cornucopia of top UFO researchers, because of that beautiful hair of yours.
I don't know. Someone told me I'm starting to look like Danny Sheehan.
I was
I don't
just
know.
going to mention that. That's good company.
Yeah. So he's not as handsome as me, though. Unfortunately.
Fap Nuts, how you doing, buddy? The Timu version of Wilford Brimley's Grape Nuts right there. We got Fap Nuts here. Matthew Goodka, how you doing, brother? Al Gray on Twitch says, Bob, I forgive your tech problems because you have great hair.
Thank you.
I had the absolute worst dinner of my life tonight. Kmart, how you doing? Welcome to SOR chat. Worst dinner of my life. Scott Blight, how are you? So my daytime job, my bosses in the ownership decided to take us out for dinner. And we go to the local pub. Well, let's just say that I think my one buddy that I work with might have food poisoning after his tangy steak. Steak should never taste tangy. Oh, it's horrible. Horrible. You know, when you're cutting open a steak and you have to saw through the ligaments? Yeah. That's never any good. Worst steak I've ever had. Honestly. Everyone likes poutine. Yeah, totally rancid. But he's Italian, so he still ate half of it. Looking good, Bob. Looking good. God damn, you're sexy. All right. You hear me okay, Bob?
I hear you. I wasn't sure if you're talking to your audience or if you were talking to me.
I
But
bounced. I bounced.
when I go to Quebec, I go to Quebec a lot. I always get poutine. I love poutine.
You have to. You have
Yep.
to.
Those cheese clods, whatever
Cheese
they
curds,
call them,
yep.
they're delicious. Yeah, curds. That's right. They're delicious. But anyway, I'm sorry about the tech problems. I don't think it's
That's
going to
all right.
happen
We got
again.
it solved. We got it solved. Not a big deal.
So where
Apparently,
were
I
we?
look like Cat Stevens, according to Charles Wempe. All right. We have about a minute 10. Yeah, oob. Yes, cheese curds, man. French fries, cheese curds, and gravy.
And gravy, right?
That's right. Emperor Penguin, how you doing? All right. Big thank you tonight to Pam Harris, T-Bone, my man, and Kitty Cattywhack. Thank you for the love, everybody. All right, Bob, we got 10 seconds. Don't forget, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Check it on out. Hi there, bad cop. How you doing? Here we go. We are into the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We're greatly appreciative of you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind everybody that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube for any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go, Bob Spearing from MUFON. He's hanging on out with us, and we are talking about the top UFO reports of 2025. Before we get to that, Bob, we kind of lost you in the last end with some technical difficulties. I was asking you, what makes a good report?
Right. Where I got cut off, I was saying there's several things. Multi-witness reports. If there's two or more witnesses, that usually increases the reliability of the people who saw it. Second would be video or photographic evidence. And we have some very interesting videos this year, the past 12 months, from Mississippi, from Australia, over the Pacific Ocean. And videos really make a case a lot of times. You have to do a lot of investigating with the video to make sure the metadata matches what the witness is talking about in order to eliminate hoaxes, make sure that you can get the proper date and time. iPhone, you can get the exact latitude and longitude to within 1 foot of where the video was taken. We also have a laboratory in Missouri that we send samples to when we get them from witnesses. The most famous sample we had in the past couple of years was a sample that got smuggled out of Moscow. We call it the Russian sample. And we got it to our lab in Missouri. 2 other labs in Moscow had tested it, could not identify it. MUFON's lab could not identify it. And so we went to present it at our symposium, and our laboratory mailed it to me. And I live in a community in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania where we have a mail room. And there's cameras aimed at the wall of the mailboxes. And I never got the sample, even though it said it was delivered to my mailbox, even though my mail clerk said she put it in the mailbox herself. And interestingly enough, the cameras were turned away from the wall of mailboxes that particular day. And it makes you wonder who would steal something like that. And to make a long story short, it was a type of aerogel, which was mysteriously invented in the 1930s. It's used in aerospace. This fragment of material was radioactive, exposed to cosmic rays. It was comprised of, at a nanoscale, of carbon-60 fullerenes, which are very difficult to manufacture, and it had a crystalline growth structure to it, where at one point there were crystals growing in it. So we were able to manage to get a second sample of it. We sent it to an associated lab with our Australian national director. They did $20,000 worth of work on this particular sample, and they came to the conclusion that it was from a craft of some sort. It was in space, and that their databases, their industrial databases, could not identify a manufacturer known in the world or the manufacturing process by which this material was created. Lo and behold, about 4 months ago, a scientist at Lockheed Martin said that they had received through the government from an NGO, non-governmental organization, a sample that very, very closely matches what was missing from my mailbox. And one of the things this particular scientist said about the material is that it was reverse engineered by them, and that it seems to be a technology from 200 to 300 years in the future. So that's an extraordinary case. So when we talk about really good cases, we talk about multiple witnesses, we talk about photo and video evidence that's extraordinary, or physical samples.
When you are doing and getting those type of reports, obviously the more the merrier. You know, the more people who report seeing the same thing. I was kind of mentioning when you were off on the break there for a second while you were getting your technology figured out. I said, you know what? You want to report it because you want to know, if you get in touch with the MUFON investigator, they can maybe tell you if other people in your area have seen the same thing.
That's absolutely right. One of my favorite things to do is to find what we call correlating cases. All right. A lot of times you will get a flap. We actually have a feature in our case management system that will send me an email when we get an extraordinary amount of reports within a time frame in a certain area. The other interesting thing, we're no longer working with Fran Ridge, but with his MADAR. There were several correlations we made. He has a network of these little units that attach to people's modems, and it basically does two things. It can sense compass gyrations that are not normal, and it can sense sudden rises or drops in atmospheric pressure. That basically suggests something may or be coming into the atmosphere or out of the atmosphere into space. And several of his hits in his network correlated to within minutes of MUFON witnesses witnessing something. So that's an extraordinary tool. I know there's another fellow going to come out with a similar network. Now you have Sky Tracker also, but basically the MUFON witness saw a large octagon-shaped craft come down swiftly over his house and hover at 4:02 in the morning in Kentucky, about 10 miles away from Fort Knox. And at the same time, 4:02 a.m., the nearest MADAR unit in Fran's network triggered, and that was near Fort Knox. And so we had an amazing correlation between an instrument picking up a UFO and a witness witnessing something at exactly the same time. That's how ufology is supposed to work anyway.
If you look at 2025 overall, how was it for UFO sightings?
It was a really good year. I do the MUFON Cases of Interest presentation every year at the MUFON Symposium.
Yes.
Last year there was a paucity of really good reports, except one that correlated back to the Sandown Clown case on the Isle of Wight back in the 1970s. The Sandown Clown seems to still be active and appearing to people in certain parts of the world. This year, I have an extraordinary amount of videos. All right. I would have liked to show them to you, but they're on my computer, and right now I'm on my phone. But we have one in particular that just came in from north of Perth, Australia, where the fellow is looking out over the Pacific Ocean, and it is a flight lane for airplanes heading to and from Perth, but Flight Radar 24 showed no craft in the area at all. Yet it's clear that out in the distance, there are these three small points of light, and most likely there's some sort of airplanes, but without transponders on, possibly military. But the weirdest thing is that you could see the sunset and the clouds were all static, and these three objects are moving, and then one of the clouds starts following the objects. These objects were going several hundred miles an hour. So we have a cloud that's probably the size of 4 or 5 787s back to back, flying at 400 miles an hour, following the three dots, which we think might be military planes. So right now, our photo analysis team is working on that. Clouds do not travel at 400 miles an hour and maintain their shape. So whatever this thing was, it was massive, and it was
Right.
flying at the same speed as the three small dots ahead of it, which we believe were some sort of military craft. Was it a military experiment? Was it a UFO following the craft? We don't know at this point. We're still analyzing it.
So
But
you believe then, if you look at this case, that it's possible that some sort of UFO was disguising itself as a cloud following these dots?
absolutely. And I'll tell you why. One of the things I'm really interested in is portals. There's two types of portals. There's portals that open up in people's bedrooms, and there's portals that open up in the sky. And I've been collecting reports of both types of portals for over a year now. And basically, when we get reports that may be portals, they seem to come in three types. One is that people will see a really strange reddish rainbow before a craft seems to come out of the rainbow. The second is people actually see a void open up like a doorway, absolutely rectangular, and something coming in or out of the rectangle hole in the sky. And the third type of thing we get are dark clouds where an object will go in and never come out the other side, or it will come out and go back in. One of the cases we're looking at right now is a historical case. Somebody sent us a photograph from Australia from 1985, and they basically show two disc type objects flying across the sky. And over in the right hand corner, you can see sort of a hole in the clouds. And the person who reported this said that they took the picture because the cloud opened up and there was electricity going in and out, in and out. And then he saw these two black disc objects shoot out of the hole in the sky, and he
My.
took a picture of it. So I absolutely believe that clouds have acted as a type of portal entrance or exit for like probably 40 or 50 reports that I have. And there's even evidence that this goes back hundreds of years.
I always thought that the UFOs were able just to disguise themselves in the clouds, not actually use the clouds as some sort of camouflage for them. How often are you getting reports of this happening?
So if you do one of the great things about the MUFON case management system, the CMS, is that you can do keyword searches. So if I do a keyword search for portal, a lot of times I will get a report that it involves a cloud, or you do a keyword search for cloud, and a lot of times you'll get people that say, this cloud was moving, it didn't dissipate, there was a light inside it, and then at one point the light splits inside the cloud and the cloud breaks apart and they shoot off at 35-degree angles. I remember that distinctly because I just read it yesterday. So it happens a lot. Then there's a lot of people who believe in these ethereal cloud-like craft themselves. That's very hard to prove, but there's so many people over the decades that believe they've seen cloud ships. I absolutely believe it's a thing.
Bob, looking at your top stories and encounters of 2025 with MUFON, what would you say is the best story of 2025 that you guys received?
There's probably a couple. One of them was we have a series of photographs of somebody who was traveling from Malaysia across the Pacific towards San Francisco, and he's taking pictures below him in the clouds, and there are these enormous glowing orb shapes that had to be hundreds of feet across, and there were multiple ones, and it was clearly not something below down in the ocean. It was something definitely within the clouds, and they were stationary within the clouds. Another one we have, and I also have a collection of videos for these going back to 2016, but we call them fast movers. Okay. One of them, the first one we ever got was from Haas Lake, Canada, out your way. And that's an area where we get a lot of strange UFO sightings. Sometimes they're fast movers, roughly the size of a basketball in white. And when we did frame by frame analysis, this thing's shooting along the treetops at 5,000 miles per hour. A couple of weeks later, the same object was videoed over a town, Aden, North Carolina. That was estimated at going at 10,000 miles per hour. You actually have to slow the video down 10 times in order to see it actually shooting frame by frame. These little white objects usually are no more than 1,000 feet up in the atmosphere, which would make them pretty much invisible to radar. But we're seeing them in the Netherlands, we're seeing them in Wisconsin, North Carolina, Haas Lake. Where's Haas Lake? Is that British Columbia or?
I don't recognize the name.
Okay, I think it's west of Saskatoon, I believe, several miles west of Saskatoon. But we see these all over the place. Mississippi is the one we just received, and literally this little white thing, is just scooting along at like 7,000 miles per hour. These things are all over the planet at low altitudes. And when you get these reports like Ted Rowe at NARCAP, where there's these near collisions with these objects, or something will dent the nose cone of a commercial airliner, I believe that it's actually these objects. And it actually ties in a way with the aerogel sample that we got from Russia, because this material that got stolen from my mailbox, it actually has a stealth component to it. It's very slippery, which makes it almost frictionless going through the atmosphere. And the weirdest thing about it is that it doesn't need an engine. You can actually manipulate it by making it what's called a vacuum balloon that can go thousands of miles per hour. The last time a patent was seen for this stuff was back in 2012 by the United States government, and we don't have anything since on how far the development has gone. We know that Russia and China are also developing craft with aerogels. So there's a lot of speculation as to what these little white things are scooting all over the planet. Are they ours? Are they Chinese? Are they Russian? Or if Lockheed Martin is correct and that this is reverse engineered stuff from 200 years in the future, is it ours and we've reverse engineered it? Or are they getting it from whatever these things are scooting all over the planet? But that's what I'm going to be presenting, is a series of these videos of these small white objects moving at thousands of miles per hour. And I mean, these things are small. These things are no bigger than a basketball. And the way they're being filmed is Joe in his backyard has his drone 500 feet up in the air, and the thing comes whizzing by almost as if it's checking out Joe's drone and keeps going. So what are they?
How has the increase of the technology, especially with drones now, or especially over the last couple of years, changed the way you guys have to look at videos and reports?
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder, and because a lot of drones don't follow the FAA green and red lights anymore. You can get drones that look like tons of different shapes, tons of different types of lights on them. And people are often mistaken when they say, oh, this thing accelerated at 1,000 miles per hour. I saw it with my own eyes, and then it stopped on a dime and went back. And if you look at the video, it's actually a drone going about 60 miles per hour. But to the perception of the witness, it looks like it's doing these amazing maneuvers, but it's really just doing what drones today do. But it gets worse, because now Chinese lanterns don't have to look like Chinese lanterns anymore. I just read an article the other day. They can take on numerous shapes. They can also shape shift. They have Chinese lanterns now that can shape shift. So this just makes our job incredibly hard, because it's getting harder and harder to tell what might be anomalous and what just might be human technology that's growing in leaps and bounds. One of the reasons drone technology has advanced as fast as it has is because of the Ukrainian war. The Ukrainians are massively, outmaneuvered in technology by the Russians, and as well as manpower. So the Ukrainians have gotten very, very inventive with their drones. and how they use them. And they've actually advanced drone technology probably 15 years ahead of where it should be right now. So to answer your question, yes, it's getting harder and harder and harder to discern what's ours and what's maybe something anomalous. Same thing with triangles. The TR3Bs and the Auroras, are they real? Are they ours? Is it ours and somebody else's that we've reverse engineered? So to investigate UFOs today is getting harder and harder and harder.
How is that going to affect reporting in the future?
Reporting in the future is already messed up now. And the reason for that is for decades, you had a stable two organizations that actually took UFO reports, MUFON and NUFORC, Peter Davenport's National UFO Reporting Center. And basically, we put our stuff behind a paywall for members because of the way we operate. Everybody has a different type of system. Davenport's database is open to the public without being behind a membership wall. But both databases are public and accessible. And it's very easy to make statistical analyses based on either MUFON or NUFORC or together. Okay, what's happening now, though, is you have the United States government, AARO, taking UFO reports. You have these pilot groups taking UFO reports. You've got Ted Rowe taking near collision reports. You've got a few new small UFO organizations popping up taking UFO reports. And you also have Enigma Labs, the private corporation that doesn't really release anything about what they're collecting. So I don't think we're ever going to have accurate UFO, UAP statistical analyses again. It's going to be piecemeal. You're either going to have to go to Peter Davenport, NUFORC, or to MUFON. But if you're waiting for AARO or a private corporation to tell you what their statistics are, you're going to be waiting a long time for the truth.
In 2025, we got 2 minutes to go here. What was the number one state for reports for 2025?
You know, I usually handle everything outside the United States, so I'm going to take a guess, but the usual culprits are Washington State, California, Texas, Pennsylvania, New York, and Florida, probably in that order.
What makes those areas so significant? Is it because of oceanic water? Is it because of depth? Is it because of mountains, nature, or just people paying more attention?
My theory about Washington State is that Washington State is along a major fault line. So when you have what's called the recurring orb phenomenon called the Yakima Lights, okay, that actually might be a natural phenomenon, piezoelectricity, when tectonic plates crunch against each other. And this happens a lot before earthquakes, where people see like an aurora in the area, right, or they'll see balls of light. It may actually be that people are witnessing a natural phenomenon. What I believe is going on in California is there's an extraordinary amount of United States naval bases down near San Diego. And the majority of the reports that we get from California generate from the oceans near San Diego. Okay, so I definitely believe that there's a component to our military. Some of it may be our stuff, and some of it may be technology monitoring our naval vessels and such. It could be foreign adversaries like China, but it could be something else. The area around Catalina Island is notorious for being a possible underground UFO base. And I will tell you that back in 2015, MUFON did something called Project Orange, and they mapped out over 7 years on certain dates where orbs were originating. And
Bob
one of the
Fearing, I'm going to get you to hold on right there.
Okay.
He is with MUFON on its board of directors. More highlights of 2025 in the UFO world with Bob coming up right after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. Bob, I'm going to put you in our green room for a little bit here. I will be right back. B. Arthur, how you doing from the Paranormal Portal podcast? Yeah, B. Arthur, he's golden. Tartar Sauce, how you doing? Bobbert and Lisa Smith, nice to see you both here. And I'll be right back, guys. All right. Derek the Woo Poo, how you doing? Yeah, there's a couple of you now talking some politics in our chat room. We don't do politics here. Give it a break. Okay. Give it a break. Blue Skies, how you doing? Am I missing anybody? Sarah Maddie, how are you? Nice to see you. Good job, Wrenches. Good job. Bob, how you doing? You doing good, Bob?
I'm Spearing?
Yeah, you know
Yeah,
Bob.
yeah.
Bob
I'm,
Spearing.
I'm never sure if you're talking to me or to the audience there when you're on a break. I'm doing good. I'm hanging in there.
All right. Good. Thank you tonight to T-Bone, Kitty Cattywack, and Pam Harris. Really appreciate your love and support. Thank you. Our store is always open, spacedoutradio.com. Be like T-Bone, go buy a plethora of t-shirts. Here we go, everybody. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Really appreciate you tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Before we bring in our guest from MUFON, Bob Spearing, tonight, we want to remind all of you. Oh, no, we don't want to remind you yet. We want to say hello. Hello, my dear listeners on all of our terrestrial affiliates and digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Telestic. Telestic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in the man, the myth, and the MUFON legend, Bob Spearing. He is on the board of directors. He is here to talk about some of the best sightings of 2025 and some of the hot spots that are out there. We're also going to get to some audience questions coming up here in just a little bit. Bob, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, I wanted to finish up my thought right before the break.
Please
was
do.
that back in 2015 we did a study of clusters of orb type UFOs, and what we found that was very, very interesting was off the southern shore of Long Island there were an enormous amount of orb reports, and on the north shore of Long Island there were 0 reports, and that led us to believe that while many people think there might be a submerged UFO base near Catalina Island in California, I'm of the opinion that there's something in the Long Island Sound on the south shore of Long Island. Just way too many reports on that side of the island. And as you know, over the years, there's been some very interesting experiments and national secretive laboratories that have operated on Long Island. So I definitely think something's going on under the water off the southern shore of Long Island.
Do you think then that we should be concentrating a lot more on what's happening underneath the ocean waters and lake waters? Or do you think that, the sky is still the place to find them?
Oh, well, I think the sky is still the place to find them, but I definitely think we need to start looking at the ocean more than we have. One of the theories, longstanding theories, is the Silurian theory, that there may be a civilization coexisting with us that may be slightly ahead of us technologically, and they've been hiding at the bottom of the oceans for the last several thousand years, because we've had USOs coming in and out of the water, transmedium vehicles, as far back as ancient Rome, if not earlier. So do I think there might be something under the ocean? I absolutely do. If you've ever read the books, my favorite series of books, by the way, is by Albert Rosales, The Humanoid Encounters, The Others Among Us. And if you see what happens to a lot of people when they get taken aboard a spacecraft, for example, by aliens, usually contactees that are invited, they don't go into space. Sometimes they go to, the home planet, let's say. But a lot of times the craft takes them underwater to an underwater city. All right. So the question becomes, are all of these people having the same delusion, or are all of these people being taken to some sort of underwater civilization? And what's really interesting now is that there's been a focus on USO reports, especially with Enigma Labs claiming that there's been since August 9,000 USO reports, a headline which I find highly deceiving. But interestingly enough, when the Malaysian flight 370 disappeared, they ended up mapping 3/4 of the Indian Ocean. And as you know, the oceans are less explored than actually, outer space. So if there is a Silurian society under the water hiding from us, except when they want to use their craft to see whatever we're doing, they're running out of places to hide because we are mapping the ocean floor at an incredible rate. And if there is a civilization hiding down there at the bottom of the ocean, it's only a matter of time till we find them.
There are said to be a lot of these bases along the California coastline, and they believe there's about 5 of them in that
Mhm.
area from the last report that I heard.
Mhm.
You mentioned earlier it seemed to be a little bit large and patrolling those areas. Do you think that these craft are positioned by these naval areas because they have the ability to maybe hide a little bit better because there isn't as much movement around those areas? I know that doesn't make sense. That was a horrible question, and I apologize. Okay, but do you think that maybe that they go into those areas because there is some sort of protection there?
Well, the Pacific Ocean primarily is vast. You can hide in the Pacific Ocean, and if you want to hide, and you'll never be found. Right now, where they're blowing up drug boats in the Caribbean. Do you know how vast the Caribbean is to try to find a speedboat? Imagine trying to find a UFO in the entire Pacific Ocean, especially if they have some sort of base. All right. Same thing that goes with forest. Canada fascinates me. Up the upper northern forests of Canada, the reports that we get there are of these massive objects, machines, dumbbell shaped a lot of times. And the northern Canada forests are a perfect place to hide. Same thing with the Amazon. Why do you get so many reports from Brazil? Because there's so many places for a UFO to hide in the Amazon. So do I think that there's underwater bases in the Pacific? Yes. Do I think that some of these UFO bases, if they are something other than human, are watching us? I absolutely do, especially our military near San Diego. I could tell you stories in our MUFON CMS that were reports from sailors, particularly during the Vietnam War, who were in the South China Sea. And the things that they saw coming in and out of the South China Sea near Vietnam, when, by the way, we were moving nukes around in secret, and nobody knew that except the UFOs that were surveilling our ships and coming out of the water. These objects were the size of, one fellow said, a football stadium. All right. Egg-shaped with rows of green and red lights around the equator that would come out of the ocean, hover near the aircraft carrier for a while, and then shoot off into probably outer space. So I think that there's a lot of stuff going on. As far back as World War II, we have a report. I believe the ship was the USS Anchor, where they had a submerged object just doing loops around this ship that was traveling at like 25 knots per hour. So 1945, what was fast enough under the water to do rings around the U.S. naval vessels? So yeah, I absolutely believe that the ocean is probably the best place to look for secret bases.
It's funny that you mentioned dumbbells being seen flying across the sky in northern Canada, because when I had my black triangle sighting, it started off with a dumbbell sighting about 20 minutes earlier of two silver orbs connected by an orange rod. And then 20 minutes later, when we saw the black triangle above my house, it was the entire undercarriage of that black triangle was the silver orbs lit up and connected by the orange rods.
Really? That's
Yeah.
interesting, because triangles are often seen in conjunction with other types of objects. Okay. You'll get triangles followed by cylinders, triangles followed by orbs that are maneuvering back and forth behind the triangle, triangles that detach orbs from their bottom. So triangles, more than any other craft shape, are the most likely to be seen in conjunction with other craft of different shapes. All right. The dumbbells are particularly interesting to me because we didn't even have a category for dumbbells until recently, because we started to see that this was becoming a main type of UFO shape. So we've added that to the CMS. And one of the interesting things, and you had me on several years ago about this, when we started our Project Aquarius digital library, which is like 2 terabytes of historical data, one of the rooms that we created was a drawings gallery of all of the drawings our witnesses have submitted to MUFON over the past 35 years. We have almost 10,000 drawings now. You'll be amazed at how many dumbbells there are. And there's actually a picture of one. It's 2 silver balls like held together by a pipe, almost like what you're describing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what I had seen. And there were 3 of us on my patio that night. And apparently, we watched this thing fly from the southeast to the northwest, and then it kind of vanished in the sky. And like I said, 20 minutes later, when the black triangle appeared over my house, the entire undercarriage, it wasn't just like most people who see a black triangle, they see the 3 lights, one on each point. It
Right.
wasn't like that. It was completely covered by these orange rods with silver orbs. It was incredible and absolutely silent. No sound at all when it vanished in the sky. It was,
Yep.
to this day, I'm still wondering what the hell it was. And so it's amazing that you're saying that. But I think the reason why more UFOs are seen in the northern part of Canada or in the outreaches of the United States is because of air traffic. Like at my house where I live, you're lucky to see an airliner a day, right? You're lucky to see it. Whereas if, say, you're in a more busy city, whether it's Seattle or Los Angeles or Chicago or Kansas City or Tampa Bay, wherever it may be, there's a ton of air traffic going on in those areas. So it allows you more in the north to see things that are a little bit more odd, because when there's a jet flying over. I had the privilege earlier this year to watch a B-1 bomber fly towards Alaska over my house. I'd never seen a B-1 bomber at 30,000+ feet flying before. It looked amazing, right? But you recognize it. So when you see something that you don't recognize, it's not a drone, because there's nobody around here who flies the drones. You recognize it.
Right. And the people that report triangles, it's usually the same story. They're very dark. Sometimes people will say it has a shiny bottom, because most people see it from the bottom looking up. Or it'll be a matte black, darker than the sky. And the only reason they know it's there is because they'll see the stars blink out as it passes by. They travel at extremely slow speeds, sometimes 5 miles an hour, usually over a highway late at night. and there's either a low rumble or there's zero sound, and they always have 3-point lights. Sometimes they're white, sometimes they're yellow, sometimes they're blue, and many times in the very center of the belly, there'll be almost what looks like an old-fashioned police red beacon from the top of a police car. But the reports over decades are exactly the same. All right. People very little as to what they're actually seeing, what they're actually hearing, where it's taking place, and how fast these objects are going. And they're always very large. Was your triangle very large?
I've seen two. The one that I saw, the first one that was lit up with the orbs and rods, that one was probably the size, I would say, of, oh goodness, I would say a jet fighter, probably the size
Okay.
of a jet fighter. The second one was absolutely massive. It was just the three lights on the points blocking out the stars in the sky. It
Mhm.
was rotating and then it disappeared. And that one was probably, from my vantage point and my friend's vantage point, it was probably the size of a city.
Wow. I mean, when people say it's the size of 3 football fields, that's big. When you say that's the size of the city, that's really big. And that's not unusual either. We do have people that report UFOs that say that it was the size of a city. And I'm saying, how could they see something that big and it's not a news story or thousands of other people didn't see it, but you and hundreds of other people see these incredibly massive sized UFOs and it never makes the news?
Right? I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that because they're all over the place and
They are all over the place. Yep.
they are being seen elsewhere. So I find that very intriguing. That is for sure. Let's get to some audience questions here, Bob.
Sure.
Okay. Start off with Charles. Why do you think MUFON gets so much slack?
Slack meaning
Slack, pardon
that
me,
we get a flack. Why does so MUFON's been around since 1969. All right, and it's a fairly large, volunteer organization. So when you have a lot of people, you have a lot of personalities. So it's not like MUFON um always has scandals, but there was the Jan Harzan scandal, the John Ventry thing. um but overall 99.9% of the people at MUFON, they're just good people who just want to investigate. But it only takes a few bloggers. It only takes somebody with the ability to edit the Wikipedia page on MUFON that we can't even edit, to just to show us in a bad light. So overall, I think that we don't deserve the flack that we get. And the management team that we have now is 100% different than the management team 10 years ago. All right. When a lot of this stuff, or 15 years ago with Bigelow, all those people are gone. And the people that I work with now in management, it's like we're all dedicated and we're just moving the needle along the way it has to be. All right. As far as, are we pseudoscience? I don't think so. I think that we have a lot of good forensic people, but when you're getting bad publicity from haters, it's gonna not always reflect well on you. I don't think
Right.
I don't think the flack we get is deserved at all, especially now with everything that we've been doing the past 5 years, putting out the Project Aquarius library. We have a brand new reporting system coming out probably by February, and we're going to have an associated app that will be mind-blowing probably before Labor Day. And we're moving into the 21st century the way we should have a long time ago. But the team we have now really has brought MUFON back. We're expanding on social media. We don't put up any nonsense or new age pseudoscience. We can't control every Facebook group out there or every MUFON member who wants to
Right.
talk about ghosts, but we don't do that, as far as MUFON International goes. So I think that we've rehabilitated our image quite well from the past. And I think that the scandals were few and far between. It's just a bunch of haters on Wikipedia and on blogs that try to destroy us for whatever reason.
That actually gets to another question that we have from our audience here. And this one comes from, let me just find it here. Where did it go? Where did it go? From T-Bone. Do you think there is a UFO cryptid connection, even though you guys really aren't, you know, I know you're wanting more science and everything, but people are having encounters that overlap with other phenomena.
Yes, and I can address that point directly. If you go back to the 80s and 90s and look at the old MUFON journals, you'll see that at the time we were investigating Bigfoot, we were investigating crop circles, and they moved away from that, I think, because we didn't want to be perceived as pseudoscience. All right. One of the things we decided with the new reporting system, we're going to retire the CMS. The new reporting system, we're changing the standards as to what we will and will not investigate. So the perfect example is Sasquatch. Okay. If somebody submits a Sasquatch report to us, all right, I personally think that there is something probably running around in the forests of Canada and, Washington State that we don't know what it is. If it's just a Bigfoot report, we won't investigate. However, there are many, many reports, and Dave, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, where Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti are seen in conjunction with craft. Okay. When we will get a report where there is a Sasquatch associated with some sort of UFO, that's where we draw the line, and we will investigate that report, because we investigate entities, tall blonde Nordics, little grays, reptilians. Why not a Sasquatch if it might be the member of a craft crew? So that's where we're trying to draw the line. We're still not going to do ghosts, no seances, Ouija boards, new age stuff.
I get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that. But as an example of that, okay, David Politis, who is formerly a MUFON, great investigator with his Missing 411 series, just recently did a documentary on Sasquatch where he gets into kind of the more woo aspects of everything. And during that documentary, kind of, in interviews, he kind of has taken a shot at the BFRO, the Bigfoot Research Organization, okay, regarding the fact that if let's say they have a report where somebody sees a Sasquatch and then a UFO flies over, they're actually allegedly refusing to cover or that story, or they will edit it to take out the UFO report and just keep the Sasquatch report. And when you use the word science behind it, and Bob, I'm not a scientist whatsoever. Okay. I'm just a guy who reports on things. Okay. But when you edit the report, okay, that's not very good for, or not very good for your following, number one, but number two, it's not very scientific towards the statistics you are trying to create to impress people about what you're doing. Now, I'm not saying MUFON is doing that, but I'm saying there is a fine line there.
Yeah, I think so too. One of the things that, like when it comes to cryptozoology, okay, I'm not a scientist either, and I'm certainly not a cryptozoologist, but gorillas were mythical creatures up until 125 years ago. Nobody in the scientific world actually believed gorillas existed till they actually caught a couple. All right, so who's to say that there isn't some sort of mammalian entity
Right.
in the wilds of North America or elsewhere? And who's to say that they may not be from another place or another time, or another dimension for that matter? Because I think a lot of the reports about Sasquatch tend to suggest that they can come in and out of our reality at will. So
That's
what's
right.
that all about, right? It's certainly not demons. I don't think demons are hairy. You know what I mean? So
Bob, I'm going to cut you off right there because we've got to
okay.
go to break. We're going to continue with Bob Spearing till the top of the hour on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Knucker, how you doing, buddy? Bob Spearing, lots of good questions from our audience coming up here. But yeah,
Okay.
What's his name? The guy who runs Matt Moneymaker runs the BFRO. Basically, called the report a bunch of bullshit that they do that. But I've met a few people on this show that I've interviewed who've put cases towards BFRO who said that their reports were edited.
What is BFRO? Bigfoot reporting?
Yeah, it's basically the
Organization?
reporting organization. Yeah, they would be the MUFON of the Bigfoot category.
Have you ever interviewed Stan Gordon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because he's to me, growing up, he was the Bigfoot guy. You know what I mean? Out here in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. He's amazing.
Yep. One of the last old timers. You know.
Oh yeah. No.
I don't know if you knew. Did you know Fred Saluga?
Never got the opportunity to chat with him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he died last week. He was a longtime MUFON. He was the state director for West Virginia, and he was always given talks at presentations on Bigfoot. He was always out in the woods like you, hunting them down.
I absolutely have fallen in love with looking for Sasquatch. I'm not good at it. I'm lucky enough to have a couple of hot spots, but to me, there's no greater feeling than going through the wilderness and just finding something that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I live out in the wilderness too. All right. I don't think we have any Sasquatch around here, but we definitely have coyotes and bears and deer and stuff. But I love hiking. All right. But then one day, maybe a year or two ago, I was sitting in my car at the edge of the forest. I was at a U-Haul storage facility, and I saw a mountain lion jump out of a tree. And they will swear to you here in Pennsylvania that the last mountain lion was shot in 1898. But
Yes.
I saw a mountain lion jump out of a tree less than 100 feet away from me. And I went, oh my God, it looks like an African female lion. That's how big it was.
Yep.
And they'll tell you that I'm dreaming. And I saw it,
I got a beautiful picture of one of my Sasquatch areas. I got a beautiful picture of a mountain lion on my game cam.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was, but it scared me because it jumped out of the tree like it was just sitting there waiting. When you're out there looking for Sasquatch, have you ever come across those piles of rock that seem to be like some sort of rudimentary monument, possibly made by a Sasquatch?
It's hard to tell in our area because a lot of hunters, like I live in a real hunting tourism area. And a lot of hunters will put markers out for their hunting areas. So I don't put a lot of stock into that. The one part that actually makes me really freaked out is we have a lot of rock forests. Like David Paulides talks about these areas of the forest that are just like rocks. And that's where a lot of people seem to go missing, is within those rocky areas. We have a lot of those around here.
Yeah, interesting. Because I read two of his books, and one of them he talks about the triangle where people go missing out near Vancouver and Nanaimo. All right. Yeah. And also, are you anywhere near Chilliwack?
Chilliwack? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where Chilliwack, I used to actually work in Chilliwack.
That is a hot spot, man. Yeah. All right. One of the best cases was this woman. She was hiking with her boyfriend, and she heard this buzzing sound, and this little red triangle about a foot came, and it was threatening her, and the boyfriend actually ran away and left her in the forest. All right. So, is there any military bases near there? Because we get a
There
lot of
used to be.
reports.
There you.
Oh, really?
That's an interesting topic. We're coming back in about 5 seconds, but
Okay.
yeah, there is a base there.
Okay.
Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind everybody that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, our good friend Bob Spearing. He is part of MUFON's board of directors, coming in to look at the year that was in ufology. And Bob, we always appreciate your friendship and you being here. Thank you very much for tonight.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate talking to you all the time.
Oh, man. I could go hours with you, Bob.
Uh-huh.
Hours of just discussion. You know, it's funny. During the break, you were mentioning a town that I used to live near. I actually worked there, Chilliwack, British Columbia. You know, I lived about 55 kilometers. I had to commute 55 kilometers a day, which is about 30 miles to work every day to get there. And that entire area. So if you go from Vancouver and you head east to a city called Langley, just past Chilliwack to a place called Hope, which is where Rambo, the original Rambo, was filmed, First Blood. And that entire line right there is filled with triangle sightings. It is and it's funny. I was talking to David Marler about it. He didn't even know, because he was talking during our interview about these hotspots for black triangles. And he didn't even know that there was this hotbed of triangles in that area. And I think what it is you have a combination of the there's a lot of gold in the Fraser River. Okay, which UFOs seem to be attracted to minerals and everything like gold. You have Volcano Alley, which starts at Mount Shasta and goes straight up towards Alaska. Like my area where I live now, a million years ago, this was a lake of lava, a lava lake. You know, so that seems to follow the trend. And then you also have the conjunction with the United States border being right there, along with military bases on both sides of the border in those areas. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why these triangles would be popping in and out of there.
Yeah, I mean that whole area above North Dakota and Montana, that's where all of the massive Canadian UFOs are seen. All right. As a matter of fact, when they shot down the Chinese balloon, there was another report of something being shot down up in the wilds of Canada near you. And it's like they claim they've never found it, which I think is preposterous. Okay. But I definitely think there's a lot of action going on up in the Canadian wilderness for sure.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, Bob. Absolutely. We're taking questions from our audience here. Let's go next to I'm Hardcore, who's listening in on X tonight. How often does MUFON receive a hoax video?
Almost never. We've estimated 1 to 5% of our reports in general are hoaxes, which is actually a very small number. I will tell you that when we do get a hoax video or a hoax photograph, 99.9% of the time it's from India. All right. They seem to have a culture of wanting to hoax UFO reports, where they actually we actually, our photo analysis team actually had a picture of what looked like the craft from Independence Day over this Indian city. And we were able to determine by using software on the internet that allows you to find pictures like Google Photos now. But in the old days, it was something different. We actually found it was from a painting of a UFO that they morphed into an actual photograph. So we get a lot of those fake city-sized UFO photographs from India. We also get flying man videos from India. We get a lot of those. All right. So we really do cursory video analysis because it seems like it's a trend. And most of the time they turn out to be all of the time they turn out to be hoaxes. So India is where the hoaxes come from mostly.
You mean they're not just calling you to see if you want to extend your car's warranty?
No. Oh, I'll tell you. Once I turned senior citizen, it's like I'm getting between 11 and 12 calls a day from Medicare fraudsters. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's like I can't, and you can't do anything about it. You know, I see area code 201 from New Jersey and I just hang up, you know.
T-Bone is asking, Bob, in your opinion, malevolent or benevolent or both when it comes to UFOs?
That's a great question. I think it's both. I think that more than 70% of reports are either neutral or malevolent, and only maybe 30 people report positive experiences. And a very interesting thing, I'm going to write an article on this very, very soon. When somebody reports an abduction to MUFON, we actually have them fill out what's called the experiencer questionnaire. It was developed by Kathleen Marden and Denise Stoner years ago, and we're revamping it for the new system. But right now, it consists of 25 questions. Does it run in your family? Did you crave salt afterwards? Do you have a renewed interest in the environment? Were you fearful of the encounter? Do you want them to come back? And one question in particular was, were you healed by your experience? And basically, and I just looked at this yesterday, about 2,800 people responded no, and about 600 people responded yes. So we're talking maybe 1/5 of people who responded to the experiencer questionnaire had a positive healing as a result of their encounters. And 600 is not an insignificant number. So I asked our programmer to do a deeper dive, and I said, what are the times of day when most healings occur? And I thought it was going to be 3 o'clock in the morning. It was more like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, between noon and 3. All right. Which sort of startled me that daytime encounters have a high propensity for being healings. And I also asked, what were the top 5 states? And I was really surprised that California was number 1, of course.
Right.
Arizona was number 2. Wisconsin was number 3. And I can't figure out Wisconsin at all for the life of me, because the next thing I did was look at population density, and the number of reports from Wisconsin compared to the number of healings and abductions just doesn't make any sense. It's off the charts. All right. So I think something's going on in Wisconsin, to be perfectly honest. All right. So, but the next thing I want to do is look up megalithic sites and where did these healings take place in proximity to megalithic sites? Did they take place during, a solar storm? There's all sorts of ways you can go and dive deeper and deeper and deeper. All right. But to answer T-Bone's question again, 70% are either neutral or malevolent in our records, and about 30% are benevolent.
Let us move on then to this question before I get to more audience questions, Bob. A lot of movement in the disclosure aspect right now, where there are a lot of people turning against it, saying after 2025, I don't believe disclosure is going to happen. MUFON has kind of stayed away from the whole disclosure argument. What is the reasoning behind that? And do you think, on a personal level, that disclosure is going to be inching forward in 2026, or do you think it's going to continue its slow, painful death?
Okay, my personal opinion first is that we're nowhere near disclosure. And whatever's coming out, in my personal opinion, I think at least half of it is a psyop of some sort. Okay, especially with Three Eye Atlas. All right, these congressional hearings that are endless, and it's just reinventing the wheel all the time. It's almost like they keep putting a carrot out in front of us, and we keep going for the carrot. That's my personal opinion, that we're nowhere near disclosure. MUFON will take the position that we do research, all right, and that after 85 years of intense investigation, nobody really knows still what's going on. So for us to make outlandish predictions that disclosure is close, or that we know the answer, what's going down, because I think it's many things that are happening, not just one. We try to stay neutral and just do the research. Okay. Disclosure. Next year, Steven Spielberg's coming out with a movie, and basically it's about disclosure. And the caption now in the early ad says, "All will be revealed." And I just think they're leading us on. I really do. All right. When Spielberg made Close Encounters, Jacques Vallée told him, it could be something other than aliens. And then Spielberg responded to him, but the public wants aliens. And now I get the impression that Spielberg is changing with the times and wants to be part of the disclosure movement. So I don't think this movie is going to be about aliens. What it's going to be about, I don't know, but I'm very leery that all will be revealed, to be perfectly honest.
I think we're going to eventually get a government shutdown on it.
But yeah, I mean, well, that was another conspiracy theory, was when the government shut down, we couldn't take any pictures of Three Eye Atlas. So NASA must be covering something up. Not that I trust NASA as far as I can throw them, but I just don't think anything's coming. I think next year we'll get another round of congressional hearings. And in 28, we'll get another round of congressional hearings. And they'll go into the skiff with the whistleblower, and we'll never hear another thing. And it's just going to go. This has been going on. If you look at the old NICAP bulletins from the 1960s, the Congress was into this in the 1960s. Oh, Senator Joe Smith in Delaware in 1965 was just briefed. It's endless, and they tell us nothing. So I have no faith that disclosure is coming anytime soon.
Let's move to another audience question here, my friend, because we don't skiff around here. Let's go to Joe. Bob, what about all the very cool sightings that people have had that they just don't report? This is kind of what we talked about a little bit ago.
Yeah, I think that the going consensus is that for every person that reports something, 20 people don't report something. So if those 20 other people did report it, I think we'd be a lot closer to the answer. What's really interesting in the MUFON CMS is that, and this is not an insignificant number, a lot of people will wait 20, 30, 40 years before they report to MUFON. They didn't know about us, or they were afraid people would think they're nuts, or they just felt they needed to get it off their chest because they're old now and they're dying. But it really is a mystery why some people just pretend that it's unimportant, and that they don't want to report it. I don't understand that. The three things I saw were fairly minor compared to a lot of other reports, and it was enough to have me hooked for the rest of my life. Okay, so I don't understand how people who see things can just let it go. It really is a mystery to me.
Let's go to Tim here. Are we still getting the same consistency of alien taking people reports as we have historically?
Yeah, interestingly enough, in the early 50s and 60s, the people reporting that they were taken fell in more into the contactee category. It was only in the probably late 70s, early 80s that we started getting what are called the abduction reports that were sort of malevolent, almost demonic. So why do more people today feel they're abducted than 40 years ago when people were being asked if they'd like to take a ride in a spaceship, all right, and then are returned unharmed, no medical procedures, all right, like Adamski, Bertham, yeah, um, uh, a couple of more. Those people like seem like they were taken on a trip to another planet or to an underwater, city. And today it's a far more violent and dark experience. So the phenomenon has absolutely changed. Absolutely changed. So did the people who used to visit us go away? And the bad people have come in their stead? I don't know, but it definitely seems like the entire phenomenon has changed. Yes.
Let's go to Brent here. We call him B. Arthur around here. B is asking, Bob, do you feel that the different shapes of UFOs represent a different race of being?
Yeah, well, aliens would be like fourth on my list. I think that there's a lot of stuff going on. I think that there's interdimensionals. I think there's time travelers. I think there could be aliens. I think some of it might be demonic. All right. But demons don't need spacecraft. That's actually a famous line Kirk says to Spock, I think in Star Trek V. Why would God need a spacecraft? Um, but where are they all coming from? And why do so many of them look so different? Like I mentioned earlier, our drawings gallery, you've got the usual shapes and they pop up a lot: triangles, cylinders, discs, multicolored lights around discs. But then you've got things that look like Christmas bulbs, just bizarre shapes, snakes, all right, serpents, people call them. So where are they all coming from? Is it, like Ford puts out a new model probe every year, so they look different, or are they coming from different places? Uh, the My honest opinion, because I don't know, would be that they're coming from all different places. Okay, maybe some of them are aliens. Maybe some are interdimensional from another dimension coming here. Maybe some are coming from the future. But I think that explains why we see so many different types of physical objects. I do believe they're coming from all different sorts of places. Yes. It's a
T-Bone is
big
at,
universe. It's a big universe out there. 2 trillion visible galaxies.
T-Bone is asking, what are your 2026 predictions for ufology, Bob?
I think we're going to hear from Avi Loeb again on something. I think there's going to be more congressional hearings. I know that Ron James, our media director, is putting out his movie, Accidental Truth, next. And just to give you a hint, the part about simulation theory is fascinating. All right. Um, and I think that we're going to get more and more high quality videos as iPhone cameras become better and better and better. Okay. So the visitors, whoever they are, I think over the years have changed their method of operating because they know that everybody's got a camera now. But I definitely think that there's going to be some phenomenal abduction reports, and I definitely think there's going to be some phenomenal portal reports. And I think that disclosure is not coming anytime soon. And also, I think we're going to see more and more videos from the government that are usually unsourced, where a congressman will say, well, this just came into me and we really can't verify it, but we're going to put it up in a congressional hearing and let you see it anyway. and that's the last you'll hear of it. I also think that
Right.
some of the regular guys that make documentaries are going to keep putting out more of the same. So in a way, I'm pessimistic about this closure, but I do think that really excellent reports, as always, will continue to come in 2026.
I want to respond to that, but I got 2 audience questions to go here. We have 4 minutes left with you, Bob Spearing from MUFON tonight. Let's go to Necessary here, asking, have you ever received a report of a sighting on the moon via a telescope?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I believe we have several videos. The person who used to do that for us, Glenn Green from New Jersey, he died of a heart attack, unfortunately, at a young age, about a year ago, and nobody's picked up the mantle since. But oh yeah, we get a lot of not a lot, but we get videos of things crossing the moon. That I mean, they could be in the atmosphere, it could be near the moon. Each one of them has to be assessed separately. But yeah, we do get moon videos. Absolutely, we get International Space Station videos too, but we consider them third party, so we won't investigate them because there's no way we could actually verify that without metadata from NASA. Next
Final
question.
from our audience here tonight. Hypothetically, from Paramarv, when someone reports a craft sighting, if someone interacts with the occupants, how deep do you investigate or document that? Does MUFON gloss over the aliens or keep track of them?
Well, that's a very good question. In the new system, again, we're going into more depth, but basically we have what's called the ERT team, the Experiencer Resource Team, headed by Doc Medich, who used to be a New York Yankees baseball pitcher. He's a retired doctor, physician. They do a phenomenal job following up with the witness. When there's an abduction, the investigation takes 2 parts. There's the nuts and bolts side of it. What did you see? What did the alien look like? What was your interaction? Was there a craft or was it a bedroom encounter? And then they will follow up and go into the psychological aspect with the witness and even offer resources if they need it. Okay. So probably, as far as I'm concerned personally, the abductions are probably the most interesting part of it because that's where you're actually dealing with whoever the visitors are. And yes, we do document. We can pull out reports that show X amount of, grays do this, X amount of grays turn into orbs or the other way around. Reptilians show up in people's kitchens. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that we can analyze stuff. And with our new system, it's going to be even more phenomenal, the way we're going to be able to drill down deeper.
When do you get your new system activated?
We're halfway through the build now. The architecture is all laid out. The witness side of it is all done. What the witness would use to report. They're building the backside for the investigator now, and we're hoping. We were hoping for Christmas, but it looks like it's going to be towards the end of January, and then the associated app that's going to come out on the Google Play Store and the Apple Store will probably be around Memorial Day. And that is going to be really, really 22nd century as far as I'm concerned, and something people are going to want to download, and it will be free. So that's the schedule right now.
Bob, I want to say a big thank you and Merry Christmas to you and your family coming into the holiday season here. It's great to be able to call you a friend of not only this show, but in the UFO world. I really respect what you do. Tell everybody where you can find the MUFON videos and interviews.
Okay, last week I interviewed Dave. So if you got nothing to do after this, if you go to YouTube, type in MUFON, you'll see Dave's picture up there, and you can check out our another hour and a half of me and Dave talking. We'd like you to subscribe. We'd like you to hit share. We'd like you to hit like. All right. But most of all, if you see something in the sky, go to MUFON.com, the red report a UFO button or the red report an abduction button, and let us know your story. And in August, and August is our symposium. It will be in Cincinnati again. So
Talk
hope
to you
to see you all.
2026, Bob Spearing. Swamp Dwellers next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Great job tonight, Bob.
Thank you very much. I wanted to get that plug in for you on our YouTube channel. So I appreciate it, Dave. The time you give me, it was fun doing the interview with you last week. And I thought it went over very well tonight. So I appreciate the time.
Well, say Merry Christmas to the board. We love you guys, and we'll talk very soon. Okay, buddy?
Okay, yeah, I do want to call you sometime next week because I saw you use Patreon. I'm trying to figure out how to do it. Maybe you could help me.
I will help you, but I'm probably the worst at it. We can work through it together. Talk soon,
Okay.
bud.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. All right. Bob Spearing from MUFON, everybody. Love that guy. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll get right back to it. I'll be right back. I'm back. Hope you're all having a good time. Let's bring in the wizard. Let's say hello to him because he is the wizard.
Hello.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, Dave.
I'm good. I'm good.
Really
Buying a new chair in the new year.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, tired of this one.
I like my chair other than like the armrest got all like is chip falling apart. So and I got to get an armrest and it's $80 for a pair of replacement armrests for this chair.
My goodness, it's almost cheaper to buy one.
I know. Just an armrest, you mean?
Right?
No, I mean, so yeah, even like trying to find them used on eBay or something is ridiculous. So, yep.
All right, buddy. Well, we are 30 seconds away. Big thank you tonight to Pam, Kitty Cattywhack, T-Bone for the great super chats. Really appreciate the love and support, everybody. Thank you very, very much. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. And don't forget after the show to leave a comment. It really helps with the algorithms. We really appreciate that. And shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out. We would appreciate that. Here we go in 5 seconds. We are into the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Telestic. Telestic is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
I always get goosebumps when I think of this encounter I had. I live in a village of around 200 people in Alaska. It was a small village, so we knew everyone. We would always walk around, day or night. It didn't really matter to us. Living in Alaska, the fear of bears or wolves was greater than the dark. One night, I was visiting someone with my friend. It was winter. If you don't know, it only gets dark at night during winter. My friend asked if I wanted to walk. I rarely turned down a walk, so I said yeah. The road we were walking down had light poles, going both ways, but the road leads to a dead end. While we were walking, I wasn't paying attention to another one of my friends, who was running like an ape at us as a joke. We were laughing while watching him, not expecting what he would tell us next. While he was running like a gorilla, he had his head hunched down. He finally stood up when he reached us. As soon as he looked up at us, while he was catching his breath, he said, "Whoa, what is that?" and pointed behind us. The light poles were around 50 feet apart, but there was one area, I'd say 100 yards away, that had 3 of the lights off. In that one area of darkness stood this thing. I still don't have words to say what it was. The worst part was, it seemingly saw us the exact same moment we saw it. And it stopped. At the distance, we could only see a silhouette from the lights behind it. The body was thin as a tree and furless. All of the limbs were the same size. The head was over halfway to the streetlight despite the fact it was slightly hunched over. I'd say the damn thing was 11 to 14 feet tall. We all stared at this monstrosity for about 7 or so seconds. Then I turned to my friends and jokingly said, "Slender Man." We were still checking if we all saw the same thing. As we looked back, you could only see the arm going to the side of the road. We looked at each other, agreed to stay up all night, and went to a community building where we stayed for the night. To this day, I wonder how such a thing can exist in Alaska during winter at negative 50 degrees without fur. I've always felt differently about walking at night by myself after that. I stopped taking lightless shortcuts. I just don't want to see that thing for the rest of my life. The elders around our village talk about shamans a long time ago. I've always thought that maybe that had something to do with this monster. You're not supposed to tell people about someone who was a shaman, so there really isn't any history. I still think maybe this was something created. Our culture doesn't have any rituals or anything. We dance. I know many are sacred though. You cannot record them or take pictures, but I haven't seen any of those dances. Perhaps thousands of years ago, a shaman or shamans had other intentions. I wouldn't ever want to be able to find a reason to create something like that though.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories right there for you to choose from each and every time you listen. So make sure you check it on out. From the swamp to the stars, here comes the wizard and the UFO report.
Space Out Radio presents a UFO report. The UFO is a makes it spread. It's not just ready to go.
The Wizard, it is always good to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing fantastic, man. Doing fantastic. Had a nice little UFO sighting the other night.
Before you go any further, let's get into that.
Yeah. Went out to Shane Hurd's ranch in North Phoenix. If you recall, on Thursday night of last week, I mentioned that every time I go out there, I see some lights to the either the west or the northwest. And then there are nights that Shane doesn't see them at all. And so we talked about the potentiality that they might be there for me. So I got out there to Shane's and just walked over to the part of his ranch where I could see the area of the sky where I normally see him. And I said, hey fellas, I'm here if you wanted to show up. And within about 30 seconds there was a bright burst of light in the west. I would say about 20 or so degrees off the horizon. And then within a minute later after that, the lights that I typically see showed up. There's only 3 of them. And then that was pretty much it. Did see a lot of meteors, and we actually had an owl come and land on top of a light post on Shane's ranch, within 10 to 15 feet of us, and sit there for about 20 minutes or so.
What do you think?
Good night.
It knew. It totally knew.
Yeah. It was a good night.
I don't blame you.
And what's crazy is we were just talking about how owls are so much tied to the phenomena. We were having that conversation and an owl showed up and sat there for 20 minutes.
That is just amazing, my man. Absolutely amazing. And it's weird how that just continues to pop up.
Yep.
It is really weird. What do you got for us tonight?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I wanted to ask anybody who's listening or watching, there was apparently a large sighting of some lights in the southern Indiana area around the end of November, early December, November 30th into December 1st. I don't know the exact time frame, but I've gotten message by several people who have asked me if I've heard anything additional about it. And so I'm kind of doing a little mini investigations. I'm just curious if anybody watching or listening, if you could just shoot me a line if you saw the lights that were experienced in southern Indiana. I know there was a large fireball that was observed. It was a meteor shower, but this was different. That was like a multitude of different lights that were around the area. So just wanted to a little investigation that's being done for a potential mass sighting that may have occurred in southern Indiana that evening. But on to the topics, if you will. So Weaponized podcast with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. Whatever you might feel about those two individuals, they have some pretty good guests come on their show, and one of the guests they had 3 days ago, or I guess three of the guests, where they had Representative Luna, Representative Burchett, and Representative Burleson came on to talk about how they're trying to kind of push the envelope and keep the discussion going. And Representative Luna said something right before she had to leave that I thought was very interesting. She talked about how, well, she said two things. The task force that was stood up that she is the head of, that has really been facilitating a lot of the UAP hearings since this year, which is the task force for the government secrecy, something about task force of government secrecy. She said that they don't have subpoena power. So that's one of the major hurdles with the UAP hearings, is that they don't have subpoena power. So they can't actually get these people that they want to talk to in these hearings to come to the hearings. That's one. Number two is that she doesn't see value in Arrow at all, and actually thinks they need to cancel funding for that whatever program or department, or however you want to classify it. So maybe Arrow is going away soon. I don't know.
I think we could be at the point of the precipice of another group coming in. Arrow has not, I don't think, on a public side that we know of, delivered what we expected of them. They have become, instead of a watchdog for this subject, they become a governmental agency on what should and should not get out to the public. And that was breaking every preconceived notion that, every other group prior to it was supposed to have. And it started with, I think it basically started and finished with the former head of it, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who, couldn't seem to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth in that position, whether it was to the public or the media or even the own Congress and senators. He just seemed to be very insultive on that. And I used the example last week, I think it might have been with you or with someone else, where, you have, at least in my opinion, one of the greatest jobs in the world. You literally get to investigate UFOs. Is there life coming in? Now, obviously, there's going to be topics you cannot talk about publicly due to national security. But it reminds me of my former sports director in Vancouver, where every day was the rainiest day ever. He was like Eeyore off of, Winnie the Pooh. Every day was the worst day ever. And it seemed like we got that with Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick as well. And I could never understand that about my former boss, Josh, because we worked in sports.
Yeah.
We got free passes to every game. We got free golf. We got free everything. And you're miserable about that? Come on.
Maybe he's not a sports fan. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. When I was optimistic about Arrow when it was first announced. But then when the first report came out, it really felt like, although I wasn't around during the Condon report, it really felt like a Condon report situation where, like, whatever they found was going to be withheld, and all we were going to get is the report that just basically says nothing to see here, folks, move along, move along. So, um, and that's kind of what Kirkpatrick did. He, you know, I, I think that if Arrow continues or if it's replaced, whatever they do there, it definitely needs to be led by someone who is a skeptic, but still open to the possibilities. There's a fine distinction between skepticism and cynicism. If you don't believe that any of this stuff is possible, and you're being asked to head a department that is researching the possibilities, then of course all of the findings are going to be, biased the other way. But on the same token, you don't want somebody in here who's a 100% believer, because then everything that comes through is going to be a UAP, and it's not going to be classified correctly, and then you're going to lose all credibility. So you need somebody who is skeptical but open. Maybe they'll hire me.
I love the job. I can tell you that. I
Yeah.
know a couple people in the Canadian side where I've said, I could use that job. I could be of help.
Yeah.
Let's just give old Davey that job. They for some reason they laugh it off every time. They do.
Yeah.
But
But at the end of the day, they also want somebody they can control.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But you are right, and I do believe, and I asked this question earlier this year of people in 2026, could we see Arrow disbanded and another group come together? I mean, let's see. We've had ATIP, we've had OSAP, we have had AOIMSG or whatever it was, AMSOG or whatever it was. We've had the UAPTF, which led into, Arrow where they are now.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm missing any. Could we actually see another group be put together that could be maybe have more direction of being transparent?
I mean, I think I would like to see some sort of a public oversight committee, made up of individuals in the scientific community as well as representatives from within the government in the agencies that would be reviewing it. You could still go through the process of getting any, public, individual who be a part of that group, the necessary security clearances so that they could see at least some of the content that's being reviewed. But you think about a lot of government, whether it be at the local, state, federal level in the U.S. I don't know if this is true in Canada or not, but in the U.S. at least, a lot of government does have kind of disconnected, if you will, oversight committees that help keep the different organizations in check. And this might be something where, like I said, some sort of a more public, populated oversight committee could help keep this UAP investigatory body in check and make sure that it's actually doing what it was expected to do.
Well, let's see if that happens. Because we do know that people like Nancy Mace, Tim Burchett, Anna Paulina Luna, all Congress people, very hot and heavy on this UFO topic, don't have anything good to say about Arrow. We've only seen the public side. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes, and if they are that adamant that they want this group defunded or disbanded, maybe it's a lot uglier behind the scenes than what we are seeing, Josh.
That's true. One of the other things that Luna also said in that episode is that because the question came up of will we have another UAP hearing in 2026, And she said that as of right now, probably not, because they don't want to just have another hearing where people just come in and talk about their experiences. They actually want to have an evidence review where they have evidence that they can present to the public and and then have experts come in and review and comment on that evidence. She did say that they've seen quite a few artifacts that are unknown, that they are working to get declassified. And if they are able to, then the next hearing would be a review of that declassified evidence. So if that happens, I will be on board. I'll take the day off to make sure that I catch every single moment of that hearing.
Absolutely. You know, and you have to wonder, with that frustration mounting, as we have seen in other hearings, especially the last two hearings, where they seem to be very frustrated. That frustration started with the hearing 2 ago when Lou Elizondo and Mike Gold were in the hot seats. Elizondo, you know, a lot of people believe he kept saying, "Well, you got to buy my book. You need to read my book." Okay, and Mike Gold looked like he was trying to run some sort of NASA telethon for funding rather than talking UFOs. And then you go into the next hearing where they hear what happened to whistleblower Dylan Borland. They heard the passion of George Knapp and where these things were going. I think George Knapp fired off a number of Easter eggs in that hearing. You know, and you could tell the frustration, and Knapp actually reminding the Congress people, you guys are the ones with power. Why aren't you doing anything about it? Right. And I could see the frustration building to the point where they need to bring in some people who can answer some questions.
Yep.
They've gone through the UFO all-star community. It isn't about sightings anymore. If they want to get serious with these congressional hearings, if they continue to have them, Josh, and I'll get your opinion with 2 minutes to go here. Okay. They need to start bringing in some people who can answer some questions, because bringing in eyewitnesses are not whistleblowers. You're an eyewitness to your accounts. I'm an eyewitness to my accounts. Our listeners who have seen strange things are eyewitnesses to their accounts. Just because we may not have a military uniform on or military fatigues doesn't mean that our sighting isn't as valid as somebody who is in the middle of an Air Force base or an Army barracks having a sighting as well. They're not whistleblowers.
Right.
Bring in people who can answer the question. Why has Chris Mellon been able to dodge it? That should have been one of the first people on that list. He's a former Deputy Secretary of Defense and Intelligence. Why has he not testified? You know, they have others like that. Bring them in.
Well, and I think that's where, like Luna said, that they don't have that subpoena power. You know, at the end of the day, all they can do is ask. And if the person says no, there's nothing they can do about it, because they lack the power to be able to subpoena them to appear at the hearing. So to me, that's the biggest hurdle, if you will, is that this task force was stood up, but it wasn't given any teeth. And so without those teeth, we're not going to get any bites. We're not going to get anybody showing up who we actually want to be there. We're going to get, like you said, we're going to get great testimony from eyewitness accounts, but we're not going to hear from the people who might actually know the answers to some of the big questions that have been asked over the last 5 years.
And maybe on that realm, then, taking your answer on that, because I agree with you. Number one, if you're going to continue the hearings, bring in UFO people. I mean, where's Jacques Vallée? What about Richard Dolan? What about Gary Nolan? I mean, there's 3 names you could bring up right there in the hearings.
Yep.
Okay. It doesn't matter whether the UFO community likes them or not. That's irrelevant. But if I'm sitting on Congress, I want to ask Gary Nolan, how come every time I look up a group or one of these fundraising teams, your name's on it? There's a question. The Wizard with the UFO report continues after this.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Cool. Still snowing up there?
No, today we had, it got warm today. Like it was like plus 12 Celsius, which would have been in the 40s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
High 40s. Melted all our snow.
Yeah, it got warm here today too. I actually put shorts on. So
Could have worn shorts today. I went jacketless today.
yeah, I mean, I remember those days. Honestly, in Kentucky, we would have had days like that in December where it would have been warm enough to, grill outside in shorts. Maybe had a hoodie on, but still shorts and grilling outside. Um, yeah, I have completely adjusted to Phoenix weather. So if it's 60 in the morning when I take my kids to school, it's freezing. I got to turn the heat on in the car.
I have the heat on in the car.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's legitimately cold. I mean, no one can argue that it's not cold there. So
Yeah. What is the temperatures coming up here? Let's go. Oh my God. Now we're going to play the Dave Can't Type game.
let's
Let's see where this takes us.
Yeah, I've got a friend that lives in Indianapolis, just outside of Indianapolis, and he said it was -5 when he got up yesterday morning. I think it was.
That'd be nice. Let's see. What's tomorrow like? Oh, we're back to somewhat normal here. -1. Oh, we get snow on Thursday again. Snow on Thursday. What's the 14-day plan?
Is it cold enough that you can throw hot water in the air and it'll freeze in the air?
No, not yet. We got to wait till at least -20 for that.
Is that like January-ish?
Yeah. Once we hit our real cold snap, I'm going to try and film some of that this year. I've never tried that, to be blunt.
I have. It's pretty cool when it happens.
Yeah.
You got to use boiling water though, or
Yeah,
like
you
just
have
literally hot water.
Yeah. So Thursday snow, Sunday snow. Oh, Saturday it starts to get cold. -15 Celsius on Saturday, -16 Sunday, high of -13 Monday. Oh, here we go. Now we're getting into some winter here. Now we're getting it. Christmas Day, no snow. That's good temperatures to freeze the lakes though. Better. Might be able to go skating on Christmas Day. Have to go check that out. Because today would have screwed up the lakes big time. Hot water freezes faster than cold water because the molecules are spread out in the heat. That's why when you watch a hockey rink, they put hot water. The Zamboni lays down hot water because it freezes quicker. Yes, it is open again, T-Bone. All right. If you could, we'd appreciate it. If you're listening on X, if you're not following us, give us a follow. We'd greatly love that. If you are listening in on YouTube and you haven't already, please give us the thumbs up or thumbs down, depending on what you feel we deserve. Either way, it helps the algorithms. And leave a comment after the show. Let us know what you think. Excuse me, guys. That horrible dinner I had earlier is starting to hit me. Oh my God, it was the worst steak I've ever had.
I bet you it was better than what I had for dinner.
What do you have?
Jack in the Box.
Oh, pretty close. Here we go, buddy. We are into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We are going to get to Josh Rutledge, the wizard, on the UFO report right after this. But first, we want to remind all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here he is. We call him the Wizard, Josh Rutledge, and the UFO report. Right before the break, we were talking about Arrow. Will they be disbanded? What should happen during congressional hearings next? I'll tell you, it's a passionate subject for a lot of people, man. It really is, Josh.
It really, and it really, I mean, it honestly surprises me. I think, there's been such a push over the last, 80 years for the government to come clean on its involvement with UFOs. And now they're like kind of talking about it, like, stringing us along, if you will, on what their involvement is. And I, unfortunately, if it ever happens, like we talked about last week, if it ever happens, it'll probably be just superficial. It'll be, here's what we know. We only got involved in 2005 with the Nimitz incident, or something like, whatever. So that'll be one thing. And then number two, I don't think, even if they say they got involved in 2004, they're still going to downplay their involvement. So the thing that I think frustrates me is that, why do we put so much trust in, or expectation even, in what the US government has to say, and letting that be the determination or the determinator of us knowing the truth that many of us already know?
It's very true. I like this comment that we have here from one of our listeners. And this is from, where is it here now? From Whistling Mike. From a guy who's been in the SSCI skiff and Aero skiff, we need polygraph firsthand people at the next testimony. Now, Whistling Mike, if you've been in the Aero skiff, I want you to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
You've been in there. I want you to get a hold of me, please. I'd love to chat with you. I got a plethora of questions for you. So I would appreciate that. And, but Mike is right. If they want to start taking these testimonies and these hearings seriously, you have to bring in the players. I mean, right now, it's just like a kangaroo court.
Yeah.
Basically what it is. It's a publicity stunt for a kangaroo court.
Well, and the question that I would have is, does anybody, like, that's something you don't really hear about much of anymore, is the polygraph. I know a lot of government agencies use it as a part of their, onboarding procedures, especially for, a higher classification or higher classified roles. But when you think back to like some of the early days of UFO cases, it was a big deal if you passed the polygraph as it related to your experience. But it's just not something that you really hear much about anymore in the public sector. Um, but you make a good point. I mean, if you come before the UAP hearing or UFO hearing or whatever you want to call it, and you raise your right hand and you swear to tell the truth, but that body doesn't have any actual, teeth, as we discussed before, uh, can you lie? It's assumed you're not going to lie, but I guess you could. Yeah, I think what would be fun is let's hook them up to a polygraph while they're giving their testimony. Let's see who's telling the truth and who's not.
Oh, very true. Absolutely. Let's move on to a different.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a different topic. Before we do that, Whistling Mike says, "I'm the guy Tim Phillips accused of extortion on the Mick West podcast." Oh, get a hold of me, buddy. Get a hold of me privately.
Yeah.
Let's have a chat. All right. Dave at spacedoutradio.com is the email. Dave at spacedoutradio.com. What else you got for us tonight, Josh?
All right. So during a recent Wyoming legislative, what's it called? Gathering. That's not the right word, but the Wyoming legislative get together. I don't know, blanking on what it's called, but anyways, they were questioning the Wyoming Adjutant General about they were talking about the Wyoming budget, and one of the representatives asked, in quotes, "I'm asking if you've had any incidents of UAPs over your airspace." During Friday's meeting, and the general replied, "For our airspace, no. I'm aware of other ones near some other federal facilities that I don't think in open testimony here I could probably say much about that." I thought that was pretty significant. I mean, he's still basically giving the line of, "I can tell you about it in a skiff," basically. But he still said that this general is aware of UAP, in airspace over other federal facilities. And this is just in a state legislative body, assembly was the word I was looking for earlier.
But is that new?
It's not that it's not new or it is new. It's that it's being discussed in the state level, I think, is the interesting part. It's been discussed in the federal. We talk about the UAP hearings and such, to we're blue in the face. But I think it's interesting that it's now trickling down to actually coming up in discussion at the state level as well. I mean, is there, I guess, a state could launch an investigation into UAPs over its airspace.
But hasn't that been the part of the entire argument kind of leading up to this? Okay, is that they have, been trying to bring this into the public realm, that there is all of this UFO activity on top of military bases?
Yes, I mean that's going back to the 90s, right, with the press club that Greer arranged and everything. We're talking about the nuclear site involvement and everything like that. Yes, I guess the point that I'm trying to make is not that he said it was above other facilities, but the fact that it came up in a state legislative assembly. I guess what I'm asking is, do you think, if the Fed can't give us the disclosure answers we're looking for, if enough states were to stand up their own, basically UAP task force, do you think we could get it at the state level? or do we need it from the Fed?
I don't even think we need it. I think that's just breaking it down into more common denominators to make more mass confusion. You know,
Maybe
I
so.
mean, I think it'd be a waste of taxpayers' money.
Well, this whole thing is probably a waste of taxpayers' money. I mean, to be honest, because like we've talked about before, we're not going to hear anything about it more than likely. So,
No,
which is a very, glass is half empty kind of way of thinking about it. But after 5 years, I just don't know if anything is ever actually going to come of it or not. So,
no, I would agree with you on that. I would agree. I think it's getting more and more difficult. And look, if the feds wanted to take this seriously, okay, if the Defense Department, if all the alphabet agencies wanted to take this subject seriously, instead of playing into the conspiracy club, okay, we would be further ahead than what we are. We'd be way further ahead if this was an actual issue for them. There's two ways to look at this. I mean, if you want to break it on down, there's two ways to look at this. Number one, there's a serious issue with these unidentified flying objects that they do not know where they are coming from. Or number two, there isn't. They're covering up their own toys and they're using UFOs as a scapegoat.
Right.
That's it. That's all it is. It's one of the two. And either way, they're not going to tell you the story because they don't want to give up their toys. They don't want people knowing what's flying at Area 51.
Well, and then also the other side of that is right now, adversaries have, they can come to the same two conclusions, right? Either there are UFOs and the US government knows what they are and they just don't want to share that information, or it's their toys and they don't want to share that information. But in any way that goes, for the US government to keep that information private only helps them in keeping their adversaries confused on what the US government knows or doesn't know about the topic.
And that's what it comes down to. What is the cover up? Is it covering up our own technology with a minuscule UFO effort, which is why we had to switch from UFO to UAP? Or is it covering up a real phenomena that's happening and they are afraid that if this does happen, that it could do some serious damage to society, that they don't think that the planet is ready for it and we need to shut the hell up?
Or, let's call it 2A, is that they do know, they've been studying it for 80 years, they've made zero progress, and they don't want to lose whatever faith or credibility they feel like they might still have with the general public.
I would agree with you on that.
So
I would totally agree with you on that.
Last topic for the night, not technically UFO, but fringe. And this one, Dave, I think will be near and dear to your heart. So in a recent interview, Dr. James Lukaski, we talked about this last month. He was interviewed by George Knapp. They talked about a lot of UFO stuff. This was on George's local CBS radio or TV station, KLAS, in Las Vegas, Nevada. But he talked about the hitchhiker effect. He said many people who went to Skinwalker Ranch as a part of the OSAP program experienced a hitchhiker effect, where they seemed to come into contact with paranormal phenomena long after they had left the program's home base in Nevada. Lukaski said that at least 5 highly experienced intelligence officers saw balls of light, shadowy figures, and even creepy creatures. One investigator was plagued by mysterious orbs when he returned to his home on the East Coast, and even saw what he described as a wolf-like creature that walked on 2 legs. This is in quotes. I mean, what did Did it get on a train or a plane to come to Washington? Lukaski asked jokingly. It left deep scratch marks on a tree it was resting against, and there was physical evidence on site. Here's your dog man, Dave.
Love them dog man. Yeah, because I love that so much. Thank you for bringing that up right at the end of the show so I get creeped out once I sign off the air. You are a mental mind game. I want to swear so bad at you right now, but I can't. You are a mental mind game. I'm telling you, you know what? I don't know if it's just me or the people I'm talking to, but there are a lot more werewolf sightings in the last couple months than I've heard of in the last number of years on this show. Like,
You
where
know,
all of a sudden this werewolf decided to hop into the cryptid mix here.
I had an opportunity to interview someone on my other podcast a couple of years back who claimed that there is a group of terrestrial entities that reside in Europe called the Lyconians, and they are what we would describe as dogmen.
Right.
And that they have the ability though to shapeshift, and so they basically interact with humans as humans, but when they're at home and they're in their households or whatever, they take that off and they're walking around as dogmen and women and dog kids and stuff. And this is somewhere in Europe, one of the Slovakias. So yeah. I mean, why not? Why not? Maybe that's where all the werewolf sightings come from, is these other terrestrial entities that are living alongside of us who appear human to us, but until they go home and then they're, Lyconians.
That seems right out of the television show V back in 1982.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No, I just think that these werewolf sightings are getting very interesting. And you know what? The other thing that's happening too is we have a lot more people looking for hot spots.
Yeah.
And not just hot spots for UFOs, Josh,
No,
but
everything.
hot spots for every type of phenomena all condensed into one area. Like I
Yeah.
have with Flight 21. I'm
mean,
not saying, everybody's trying to find their own mini Skinwalker ranch, and I think it's great. I do.
As long as, I think it's great too, as long as when you find it, you're doing like real investigatory type work, which you guys are out there at Flight 21.
Absolutely.
And I know, what's the guy who has the Meadow Project? I can't remember his name.
Trey Hudson.
Yeah, Trey Hudson in Georgia.
Yeah.
I know they're doing a lot of investigatory work there. People who invest Brown Mountains in like North Carolina area. There's a lot of that's potentially a hot spot. People do a lot of
Chestnut Ridge
investigation
in
there.
Pennsylvania.
Yep. Hudson Valley up in that area. I think it's where Mark D'Antonio lives, close to that. So I'm sure they get a lot of stuff and people do investigative work. So as long as you're treating it A, with respect, B, you're protecting yourself psychically, spiritually, because hitchhikers are real. I pulled one back from near Area 51 when we went to Vegas last year, or earlier this year. And I do a lot of psychic and spiritual protection, and it's still one was able to find its way into my vehicle. It got trapped in my vehicle, but it still got in there. So yeah, there is some stuff that happens, and you need to learn how to, protect yourself spiritually and psychically so it doesn't latch on if you're going to do any type of investigatory work.
We had 2.5 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to the wizard on Spaced Out Radio. But, I think finding these hot spots, it's a needle in a haystack, but once you find one, you recognize it very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that we have with a lot of these hot spots, and I know I've probably given out way too much about mine. But if you look at somebody like Trey Hudson with his in the Meadow, the only thing that he will say is it's southeast of Colorado.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, that's it. That's all he says. It's southeast of Colorado.
Yep.
We'll tell you where. I mean, we figured it's either in Alabama or Georgia, you know, but that's all he will say about that, is that it's southeast of Colorado. And I think it's great because you have to make things a little bit more secure rather than everybody running in there for their ghost tour.
Absolutely.
Especially if it's on public land.
Yep. Well, and you know, talking about looking for hot spots. I mean, I wonder, Dave, if you know if you have any vortexes in the area where Flight 21 is, if there's maybe a correlation between vortexes and hotspots.
Could be. Could be. I don't even know how to check for that.
Dowsing rods, you can use those.
I'll have to try that.
Yep.
I will
That's
have to try that.
dowsing rods will also find water, so you have to be really clear and intentional on what you're looking for with the rods. You can't just be like, "Show me the substance" or whatever. You know, you have to be really intentional. But yeah, try that. Give that a go.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. That's actually a very good idea. I would love to. Love to go a little bit deeper on the dowsing rods at Flight 21 next year. I think that would be interesting just to see how it tests out.
Yep. That's one of the things I do a lot of is with dowsing rods and things. And I've had various conversations had a conversation with an entity claiming to be from that lives subterranean on the planet Venus. It talked about how it came to live subterranean on Venus. So, you know, it's interesting whether or not you believe it. It's up to you, but it's an interesting information regardless. I've also though had spirits come through on dowsing rods that are able to answer personal questions of the people who are asking questions, that are oftentimes asking those questions like in their head. They're not even voicing it, and the
Right.
rods answer correctly. So the rods are pretty cool.
Josh, I want to say a big thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio once again with the UFO Report. Josh Rutledge, an amazing character in the UFO world. As we say goodnight to him, we'll see him in a few nights' time. And we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Elga, Facebook, Streaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, yep, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job there, Josh.
Yep. Thanks, Dave. Good conversation.
Appreciate you, my man. Always good to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. And I think I'm going to go because
No,
I'm
you
tired.
got to get up early.
Yep. So thanks, everybody. And I'll talk to you all on
See you, brother.
Thursday. All right.
Thank you, bud. Josh Rutledge, everybody. How awesome is he? Here, let's just spin, spin, spin. Spin around, spin-a-rooney. Spincheladas. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Always a good time. Always a good time. T-Bone, I forgot to get to your question about TTSA. I apologize. I had it marked too. Sorry about that. I owe you one. I owe you one, my friend. Okay, Debaruni. Just no tickling my feeties. That's all I ask. All I ask. I noticed you guys using the word moist a lot in the chat room. That one really doesn't bug me as much. You know what word I find a little bit more odd than moist? Gelatinous. 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 Horrible. Horrible word. Thank you, Undead Jed. Don't like gelatinous. Not a fan of it. What else we got from you guys? Mucus, that's an ugly word. Lex Diaz, that's a good call on mucus. Ugly, horrible word. How about morbidly obese? I mean, does anything sound more of a death trap than morbidly obese? Just the words. I don't care what your body shape is. Lord knows I don't have the best body in the world. Another horrible word is fondue. Who the hell came up with fondue? Terrible word. I don't care if you like a fondue or whatever. I think we've all eaten a fondue, but what a horrible word. Elephantitis, that's another one. It's terrible. Brunch, yeah. Yep. Membrane. That's a horrible word, too. Obdominion. What about gout? Who came up with the word gout? That is a horrible word. Yeah, my toes are killing me. My joints are sore. Wreathing in pain. I'm going to call it gout. It's a horrible word. He had the gout, that King Louis VIII. Goiter, yes, fast hemi. It's a horrible word. What about pus? That's a horrible word. Or shingles. Not as good as gout, but gee whiz. Terrible words. Terrible. $18 until Atlas 5. Oh, well, I better get over to. Better get over to that YouTube channel. They're not even live yet. There we go. Going back to the moon. Going back to the moon. Yippee. Going to take some supplies up to the people who are already there. It's weird. SpaceX isn't even live on their own channel yet. Globular, another ugly word. Globular. Thank you, number one, for globular. Putrid, that's a good word, Deb. That's a horrible word. Pustules, that's a good one. What about ginch? Who the hell came up with ginch for underwear? Thank you, Blue Cruise. Appreciate you. What we got on tomorrow night? I should probably look at that. Give me 2 seconds. We're going to look at that. Let's get this going first. Tomorrow night on the show, Psychic Holly Hall is here. We're going to have some fun with her. Be a good one. Gooch is a horrible word. Holly Hall tomorrow night, everybody. Holly Hall. All right. Thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney, T-Bone, Kitty Caddywhack, and Pam Harris for the super chats. Don't forget, after we sign off here, to go give us your thoughts on tonight's show, what you like, what you didn't like. Give us a thumbs up, because it all helps with the algorithms. And if you haven't yet already, please hit subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it, because we're trying to grow just like everybody else. So make sure you check it on out. I will see you all tomorrow night for Holly Hall. Thank you, everybody. Talk soon.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.